Hello, and welcome to the Table and Well podcast. I'm Tennison.
And I'm Ginelle. Thank you for joining us as we discuss topics and give practical tools that help you live, grow, and be in healthy, joy-filled relationship with God, yourself, and others.
For more information and resources, or if you're looking for coaching, connection, and community, visit tableandwell.org. We hope you enjoy this podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Table and Well podcast. We are in season 3, and we are in our series, Wisdom Keepers, the role of elders in building healthy community. And today we are honored to have Chris and Jen Coursey with us. They are relational skills trainers, authors, and co-founders of Thrive Today. Their work includes Chris's powerful books, The Joy Switch, which is actually a great book right here if you want to take that. And then there's also 3 others that you can kind of see up on the shelf there. And they've helped countless individuals, communities develop relational brain skills needed to build joy, resilience, and deeper connection with God, themselves, and others. So Chris and Jen, thank you for joining us. We're so honored that you guys are with us today.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, friends.
Yes, it is.
Yes, our fellow Michiganders.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So let's get started by just even talking about who elders are. I'm curious, how would you guys define an elder?
Yeah, excellent question. Elders are really the pillars in the community. They're people that have spent a lot of time in this world growing joy, loving God, serving the community. They're the people who have a lot of life to give. They've raised their families, their kiddos. They're there to serve the community and in a sense raise the community so that the community has this source of life and joy from the elders who really are invested in the community. So I see them as the pillars that are really foundational to the community.
Yeah.
And I would add, just like technically speaking, they would be people who have raised their family. Like you touched on that, but like when you are still raising your family is your focus. When you're parenting young kids, they need to be your focus. And so you need to have finished raising your family so that they're not as dependent on you, and they're not being you're not being taken away from your family by the demands of the community, which is why we ideally it's parents who have raised their children to young adulthood or adulthood so that they can have energy and time to spare for those outside of their family.
Yeah. I'm curious when it comes to, so Jim Wilder talks about this elder stage starting when your youngest turns 13, which you guys are now there.
Yes.
And we know that each stage of maturity really is a arc of we begin and then there's lots of time to walk that out, whether that's infant, child, adult. There's a beginning stage and then there's a walking it out. What would you guys say to this day and age of these, where having a 13-year-old and having an 18-year-old is 2 very, very different things, whereas Jim would define entrance into eldership at when your youngest is 13. What would you say to that?
That's an excellent point. I would say, part of as we, elder is, in a sense, it's taking some steps to be able to give more life, within the community. But that doesn't mean there's not still a lot of needs. There's not still a lot of work to be done on the home front. Our youngest just turned 13 yesterday. And so we're still in the process of filling gaps. We're still discovering areas that our family that we need some more work and some more growth. Yeah. But you start looking kind of up and outside of your family a little more. You start noticing those that need some life or some joy. So I'd see it, I like how you put it. I see it as kind of this gradual transformation and transition that starts to happen. So we're not like, okay, youngest is 13, I'm going to go, fix all the needs in my community. We're still supporting our children.
That's good.
But they're starting to reach out more with their peers, and we have a lot more attention and bandwidth that we can start kind of slowly dipping into these waters of caring for the community.
Yeah, I actually think that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about this before, but really at 13 too, your teenagers are beginning to really look to the community as well.
Right.
I didn't really
Yeah.
think about that.
That's a great
How that's
point.
also interesting, how their shift is becomes outside of the family unit directly as
Right.
it once was. That's interesting. I hadn't put that together.
Yeah. I just,
Ah,
yeah.
And I think the other thing, different comments from what you said. Jim also says that the youngest, the earliest that parents can become elders is when their youngest turns 13, and that's when they can kind of start that process. So it doesn't mean like, okay, our son turned 13 yesterday, our youngest, so now we're like signed up, we're official. Like the youngest you can really start on that, because as Chris said, or as you pointed out, even that they're now aiming for group identity. So that 13 mark is also when our children can start adult maturity themselves. And so part of that is that our children have reached adult maturity. And so therefore they don't need us as much because they are actually working on their own adult maturity.
Right.
And so all those factors play in. And some of the things I've read, because I've been very intrigued about this stage since, like, we said that we just hit it the very, very beginning, earliest you can.
Right.
Some of Jim's writings talk about how you sort of start practicing that elder stage on your kids' friends. And so it's, like it's becoming parents to others, like being another parent to your kids' friends. That's kind of where you start your training ground.
Which is fun, it's fun. Our kids want, our 13-year-old especially, he wants to be with his friends all the time. And we try to be a home that they would want to come over and hang out and play. And it's fun to be able to welcome, others into the family and care for them and love on them. That's been a lot of fun. I've discovered as we've kind of gotten a little older here in this stage where we're just tiptoeing, we're tiptoeing into some of this, and it's very meaningful.
Yeah.
And that's, sorry.
No, so that's really interesting. That was fun and cool, because that's one thing too. And we were talking to Dr. Jim Alder. He was saying that there's different communities that elders are actually building, and one of them is kind of this greater community of, your kids' friends, a place where they can come and just be and to hang out. And so, like you're saying, Jen, it's that practicing eldering with other young adults that are in that stage. Because as we all know, when you become, you kind of liken this to parents. When you become a parent, just when your first kid is born, doesn't automatically make you a parent. There's still a lot of learning that you have to do and practice that has to happen. And I think elder is that same learning curve of like, oh, we're in the club, quote unquote. So now we're learning, and we're looking to other elders to help us navigate this. And then we're also practicing on young adults that we can help them grow them and move them into the next level of maturity as well.
And it's so vital, I think, for our young adults that this isn't a small thing, because their brains are also changing away from their parents, and they're trying to find their own identity, and they need others to help guide them. And so it isn't just a nice thing to do for these other teenagers, but it's really part of necessary development for us to have communities that will invest into each other's kids as they begin to discover who they are and what's true to them.
Yeah, I really like that picture that you both, highlight here. It really is like when you have a child for the first time, there's such a learning curve, it's such a big learning curve. And it kind of feels like that as we're tiptoeing into this season of life. Like, wow, this is a big deal. And how do we navigate this well? You just feel it. It feels significant.
Well, and one of the other things that Dr. Jim talks about is that the reason that like having raised kids past 13 helps us be ready to be elders is because we've had to walk alongside them through each of their maturity levels and helping them accomplish the needs and tasks. And it's amazing how when you walk alongside your child in their maturity, you discover holes in your own that you didn't know you had.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jen. I have no idea what you're talking about.
every child at every stage gives you a new opportunity to work on like plugging the holes in your own maturity you have fully taken advantage of, and
We're discovering holes in the boat. Like,
Yeah.
oh, a little water's coming in over there. Got to work on that.
That's so good.
So good.
And so it kind of leads into this next question. So in just you can even kind of speak to it personally and through your experience. That I know you've done a lot of work with elders with Thrive and training and all of that. And so what are some of the biggest challenges that elders may face in becoming relational leaders, whether that's leading a community or leading their family? And how can they overcome some of those obstacles and really starting to build that relationally and that emotional maturity that they need to be really, for lack of a better word, effective in building their community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people that are in, this elder phase of life and they have good stuff to share, they have wisdom and experience, knowledge, skill. I mean, there's just so many good things that they have. I think part of the challenge is communities don't always recognize it corporately. Like they don't necessarily recognize the role of elders who are just part of the community. They've been part of the community identity for a long time. They're trusted. They have so much experience and maturity to give. But, a lot of communities might not initially recognize the role or having space for those that have the wisdom to pass on. And so I think for the elders, it's just how do I give life in this community when maybe the leaders intuitively value the elders, but maybe they just don't quite know how to embrace them
Yeah.
into the community structure. And so they might feel like some elders, I think, feel a little bit like they're on the outside looking in,
Wow.
like
Good.
how do I give more life? But there's so many opportunities for communities. And so as leaders really start to value these gold mines and treasure troves of elders in their midst, it's going to make everything better.
Yeah.
So part of it is for the elder to find opportunities to give life. Families always need opportunities to give life. There's no shortage of it. We were in a small group with some elders for a number of years when we lived in Illinois, and they were like grandparents to our kids, when our kiddos were small, and they were such an encouragement. There's so much wisdom, and they just have a lot of love to give.
Yeah.
But they do need to feel like they're wanted and appreciated in the community, and for leaders just to find some practical ways for the elders to participate more in what's happening in the community for the leadership team, as well as just for the community. These are relational gold mines who have a lot of good stuff to give.
Yeah.
Well, and I think on the flip side, so that's like how they might have trouble getting the community to respond to them. I think the needs of an elder are great too. Nobody quite knows what they're doing. I'm not ready to sign up on the dotted line to be an elder, even though my son turned 13 yesterday. Right. We need to continue to grow. We need peers who are also in this journey with us, who can help us review our guesses, attempts, and failures at trying to do this. Because we don't know what we're doing. And even though we've, raised our kids, it doesn't mean we suddenly know how to be elders. You need other people on the journey with you. And then I think the other problem is just that the reality is we all have some gaps. There's probably not perfect elders out there. Even Jim Wilder says that he is not officially an elder, a full-blown elder by his own terms, by his own definition. And so we have to recognize our limitations. While wanting our community to embrace us, we also want to recognize our own limitations and have community come around us protectively, recognizing our limitations so that we don't get in positions that aren't good for us and the people around us.
It's really
That's a
good.
good point.
Yeah.
I think what comes to mind that's interesting here is that we wouldn't deny ourselves as parents when we have children. We wouldn't be, but I'm not a parent. Like
Yep,
I'm not
that's
really a
right.
parent though, and
Yeah,
I think we run the risk of doing this as an elder, where it's like, but I'm not really an elder. And
right.
it's like, no, we're here, like we're at the stage.
Hmm.
Is it a learning curve, and do we have a lot to learn, and will we learn it over time? Yes. But I think it's very similar in parenting, where it's like, okay, we're parents now.
We're in it.
Do we have a clue what we're doing? No. Are we going to learn as we go? Yes. But I'm not
Yes.
going to deny that I'm going to own this space and own this role as a parent and take it really seriously. And I think with the elders too, I think we can run the risk of saying, well, but I'm not one yet because I
Right.
haven't met a qualification. And
Yeah.
I just want to point that out, that like maybe there's an opportunity here for us to really say, no, this is where I am in this community. And what does it look like for me to do that to the best of my ability today and tomorrow and the days to come?
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's really
I
good.
love that. Yeah, I feel like, you said that well. Like elders have a seat at the table.
Mhm.
They have a seat at the table and they have a lot of life to give.
Hmm.
And even for them to just recognize, like, you're a gift to the community, whatever you have at this moment, you have something to offer. Yeah, there's always going to be work to do,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but they have so much to offer.
Yeah, the flip side of what I said about there are no perfect elders is that there's no perfect elders. So don't wait till you're a perfect elder. Like, be aware of your limitations, help
Hmm.
people surround you in your limitations, and don't wait for you to not have limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. I think one of the challenges that a lot of elders face is the fact that, because one of the things that we know with the maturity model is that one of the needs that they have is that they are recognized as elders, that
That's
they
right.
actually are recognized and that they have something to bring to the community. And I think one of the biggest challenges is the way a lot of communities maybe don't recognize elders.
Yeah.
Um, So just as I'm thinking here, what could be a way that, like you talked about leaders and communities saying, finding opportunities for elders to get involved and to use and not use, but to express their wisdom and give their wisdom to the community. What could be just really some practical ways that leaders or other people in the community could actually acknowledge and encourage elders as elders in their community?
That's an excellent question. I'd say, elders make everything better. And it's like good seasoning on a meal. Like elders are that seasoning and it's just going to make everything better. And so including them in meetings, including them in opportunities to give some life, share some perspective, add a story.
Hmm.
Um, just giving them opportunities is going to go a long way because they do have a lot of life
Hmm.
to give and they have history. They have a lot of rich history
Mhm.
as well. They've probably seen a lot over the years in the community. They remind the community this is who we are,
Hmm.
especially in the hard times. And so, I like it when just leadership can include elders, however, they're able to regularly grab coffee with them for a
Hmm.
while. And you know what? They're going to make everything better. And
I
it's a
like that
blessing for the
seasoning.
Yeah.
elder. Yeah,
Yeah.
that seasoning is kind of the way I'd see it. They're just going to make everything a little better.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Well, you guys talk a lot about being on relationally, like in the joy switch, and you talk about relational circuitry. Um, what does it look like for a community to be on, and how does that affect their ability to invite elders in and for elders to be able to operate as their full selves and for the community to operate as their full selves and make this a beautiful exchange and help alleviate conflict and things of that nature?
Yeah, that's so good. And the thing that's going to happen when you get humans together with other humans, we're going to have conflicts and, we're going to have,
Hmm.
difficulties, differences. And one of the gifts that elders bring to the table is they're really, growing in their ability to see people from God's perspective. They're in a different stage of life than like maybe, when our children were born, we were exhausted. It was just when they're littles, we just, wow, it was a workout. So elders have the gift of some time, wisdom, experience, stories. So one of the gems that they really add into the community is the reminder of this is who we are. They remind people when to take a breather, when to step back and look at something, how to remember that, yeah, this has happened before and here's how we handled it. They remind people who they are and who, what we value as a community as well as leaders. So the nice thing about elders is they're oil in the engine of the community, especially when people slip into what we all call enemy mode, where I'm not relational in this moment because I'm stuck on a problem or some pain and I'm just not not handling things well. An elder will help to buffer some of that and help to even sometimes mediate some of those moments. So just bringing them in to the community, they're going to help us better navigate the hard stuff. And they've gotten a lot of good practice on living relationally. And, they just have so much experience under their belts.
Yeah.
They're going to make everything better, especially in the conflicts and the ruptures. They're going to meet with people, pray with people, and even try to remind people who they are. Because sometimes those conflicts are with leaders or maybe pastors. And so elders could really be a buffer because they know the leaders and hopefully they've got some kind of relationship within the community there. So they can be a good bridge to help people navigate those and get back to joy and peace when there's some fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jen, do you have
I would
anything to
just add that, hopefully elders have a lot of have a lot of experience of finding God's perspective on things in their own lives and leading their children to find God's perspective on things. So they've hopefully just had a lot of practice with, interacting with the Lord and facilitating others interacting with the Lord. And so when we go relationally offline, often one of the best things that can help bring us back to peace is seeing the situation the way that God sees it and seeing what we're missing from that situation. And it just brings his peace. And so hopefully elders are good at facilitating, leading people to the Lord to find his peace in those places.
Yeah. What a gift.
Yeah. I like the word practice here because like we were talking about before, hopefully people who are in this elder stage have had a lot of practice. And then there's many of us who maybe haven't had a lot of practice, but it's not too late to begin to try, right? Like, how can we get back to peace here? And can I be a vital part of helping make that happen? Can we practice together? What might it look like for us to do that? Do I know how to do this perfectly? No. But am I willing to take a shot at it? And be that bridge for this community to bring us back to joy and to find God's perspective and to see each other through heaven's eyes and lead the way, even if I miss it.
You've been listening to the Table and Well podcast. New episodes stream every Tuesday. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review to let us know. Also, subscribe on your favorite listening platform to stay up to date on all things Table and Well. To learn more, start your journey, or get information on how Table and Well can help develop your community, family, or teams to be relationally healthy and authentically connected, please go to tableandwell.org/collab to schedule an interest call, or you can email us directly at known@tableandwell.org.